to start, so that makes me wonder. Aha! So I'm having... Okay, guys, sorry. We started early on... if you're on Mr. Opera, I guess there was a glitch, and it started on This Is Opera, and so it's been going live on This Is Opera for quite a while. Okay, so maybe I should start over. Maybe I won't start over, because I did. So recap for Team Mr. Opera. I'm just gonna turn on the chats here for 1 second. Sorry, I'm a little late getting in here this morning because I was preparing some stuff. This whole live streaming thing is a bit nuts. Let's stop this. And let's see what the chat has to say. I think just telling me that I'm not live on my own channel. Yeah, sorry guys. Hey Joey Pie, thanks for coming. Hi to Bear, thanks for coming. And Olivier Trummenschlager. Let me see. I've got some double windows and stuff here. I'll be back in a second. See, I was working on something. I'll show you. And that's why I wasn't. That's why it took me. Okay, hang on a second. Okay, so this was the reason. So that was the reason, guys. It's cats. Wait. Yeah. So the reason I was late today was cat stuff. I made a commercial involving a cat, and now. It's totally ruined my stream. Okay, so, but back to the topic. We were talking about having metal in the sound. And that's essentially what's wrong here. Or not what's wrong. What's wrong according to This Is Opera. Except they give it all kinds of weird names, and then because we don't have a real name for it that actually works, you know, we have, what's it, people say chest release, I think, and like, yeah, some people in the chest register, I guess, if you want to say that. Some people in that register use metal, but then other people don't. You know, they might talk like this, or they might talk like this, or something like that. and it's really, I feel it in my chest, but there's no metallic anything. And that's very different from that, and that's metallic. Now, if I'm taking this really high, that's probably overloading things. Sorry. So if I'm taking that kind of sound higher and higher and higher, doesn't matter. It's not about how loud it is. It's gonna feel different. I mean, it's metallic, right? So in this case, I mean, I don't know. They get true. I mean, they're bullshit basically. But this is a real thing. So if this is something that you want, you know, if you don't prefer the second example and you prefer the Corelli example, and for instance, you went to school and you wanted to learn how to sing, and this is what you wanted to learn how to do, and you didn't learn how to do that, that's like if you went to art school to learn how to paint, you know, especially you want to learn to paint a particular style or something, and they tell you, no, you can't paint that style. You have to paint this other style, and it's like it's something you don't like, and they force you to do it. And then when you say, well, I don't want to do that, I don't like it, they're like, well, what's wrong with you? You're not educated or whatever. Or let's say they tell you, well, give it a shot, and you try to do it, and you don't know how to do that kind of art, so of course you don't make that kind of painting, you make something else. And then so they say, well, I guess it's just not your painting type. It's not your finger type to do this. So you're gonna be a leader painter, something like that. You know, you're gonna be doing like Desdemona's repertoire. Yeah. So I mean, they got a point with that. And I think it's a real shame that in the whole Mr. Opera versus This Is Opera thing, that totally got lost. You know, because it was just about this guy and that guy, well, that group, well, this guy and then this whatever. And that didn't make any sense, but that's the way it was. And I don't think anybody really benefited from that. But we can benefit from it now because the videos are still here. And then it's a good example to talk about, like, what is the actual difference here? And then there's some things like I don't know, like with Tebaldi and with the modern soprano there singing the same thing. I don't know how it works exactly. It's not metal, but it's something that seems to work similarly and almost sound similar. And some of you don't like the word twang, but as far as the function of it, I think it's that. Let's see. Okay, yeah. So Tony's saying that he saw him. Tony Link, thanks for joining us. Tony Link is saying he saw him live and it was quite metallic. And then, I mean, how could I say that's impossible when there's tons of recordings of me singing lighter and maybe less metallic than is Yusuf is his name, than that, and trying to sing metallic, like maybe like what I had in my mind was, I'm trying to sing like Corelli or something like that. Like that's my idea of a good sound. It has been since I was a kid. And then there were times when actually I felt like I should know better than what I did on the stage. You know, I didn't do anything that I wanted to do. So that's totally possible. I just have this video in front of me, and if this is opera appealed to you when they were making these videos, and you know you liked what they had to say, then you should give it a you should be, I think, rigorous about it. So, and in this example, it's like we have like maximum metal and density, and then the other guy, it sounds similar to what I call a reduced density hole, where I get stuck with like overstretched vocal folds, and the best I can do is it's actually very similar to these coordinations. And I don't like being there, but it happens. So how I listen to someone else who's got that going on is going to make actually a really big difference, because I'm going to react to it in some way. You know, like, I'm going to have to try to do some emergency maneuvers if I get into what I call this reduced density hole. I might not even get out of it until maybe if I can't take a break, if there's no intermission or some time between scenes, like I'm screwed. There's no way I'm going to be able to get out. And then you just do the best you can. And I don't know, if you're listening to someone do the best they can, that's, you know, and saying that he failed, but he's doing the best that he can, and how would I try to get out of that situation? That's one thing. If you're thinking like, I could never get into that situation because when I'm in a practice room, I don't get into that situation. That's where the problem is, because it might not be in a practice room that you get into the situation. It might be another situation. It could be you're psycho or something, and you never have like an emotional thing that will put you into a reduced density hole, but it could be you're not. So yeah, that's Tony Link made a observation that he saw the same tenor live and he was quite metallic. And then Tiber Bergman, another viewer, he's saying that he saw him live as well, and he can confirm. So, and I mean, that's all. I think that's all really consistent. So let's see. Yeah, it's like even some of the audience was more metallic than Yusuf in that clip. But you know, like I'm saying. Okay, but there is more to it. So maybe they're saying singing is not the only aspect of opera that has been completely ruined. Acting has also been, let's say, greatly affected by this decline, and as a result, opera became unbearable to listen, whatever, and to listen to, and boring to watch. Might be true, but I mean, you tell me there was no boring operas before. There had to be boring operas before. Okay. And since opera is supposed to be sung without a microphone, the acting needs to be... Maybe I skipped something here. Yeah. Opera is meant to be performed in large theaters without a microphone. The plots are... This is all true. I mean, and sort of. Also in small theaters without a microphone. The plots, and sometimes, you know, if there's special effects with a microphone or whatever, like Fafner, the dragon in the ring. Anyway. The plots are usually very simple, and the themes are easily relatable emotions, such as love or jealousy. The acting in opera has always been done mostly with the voice, so a well-developed voice and a good technique are necessary. definitely true. I agree with that a lot. I agree with that a whole bunch. I have a theory that you should just not contradict it too much. So you do everything with the voice, and then do your best with your with your body not to contradict too much what you do with your voice. And since opera is supposed to be sung without a microphone, the acting needs to be extroverted in order to be audible. The audible acting. Okay. Theatrical, exciting, and touching. I mean, you're also, as far as the acting goes, it's that you're in it's not television, you know, you got to make, and the audience has to see it. So, yeah. Sometimes the singers would use sobbing, yelling, or even screaming to express, what is it? Dramatic emotions. I mean, that's all true for a certain repertoire, but no one, you know, you're not singing Don Ottavio with, you know, huge, crazy extroverted acting and sobbing and stuff. That's for a particular style. So I don't know. It's a little bit questionable. Questionable. I don't have a questionable thing, but it's not total bullshit. That's so twangy. Just really twangy. That's sounds like epilaryngeal and pharyngeal narrowing to get that sound. And then less. And then a lot. So is that, I don't know, maybe Tony, is that metallic? Tony's, so if you guys are paying attention to the chat, there's this guy Tony Link in there. And if you can get a hold of him, this guy's got ears like you wouldn't believe. He can tell you, like, if you have a vocal fry, he can tell you what kind of vocal fry you had. Like whether it was more chaotic or more organized, and etc. etc. So check the chat here. Boxy is, I mean, I don't know what boxy means, but sure, if it sounds boxy to you, that's great subjective thing to and you know, but I don't know what boxy is. It's just much more, sounds like a much more narrow epiglottis than what most sopranos are trained to do today. They would get yelled at for having like a screechy sound probably. But you have in this same video, you have Lisette Oropeza getting laughed at for being, what is it? Strident. This is strident. I mean, it should be, but this is strident. She was being all like refined and, I mean, strong, but it was Violetta. This is some strident shit. But so that was funny. Strident. I'm glad they put the names because I would look so stupid trying to do you mean like the Olivia? I'm looking at the chat here. I'll bring this back up. So Olivia, do I have the same chat up twice? I do. Looks like I don't. Hang on, guys. Let's see. I don't know if I properly have both chats up here. So I'm gonna have to. There's the second one. Do I have both chats? I don't see both chats here. So, yeah, sorry if I think one of the groups is offline here. There's This Is Opera. So, Olivia was saying, like it has a lid on it. And I still don't know what it means. Is it like a cover? Like the... Maybe so I can open and close it for you. So this is more open. Now I'm really, even though I'm kind of putting the same amount of pressure, or trying to make it as loud anyway. This is more open epiglottis, and then if I start to narrow it, now it has changed the sound. So now it's much more narrow. Now in both cases, I'm trying to keep the nose shut. So, well, now I can't open it at all, so I can't make a sound. But this is a much more open epiglottis. And then this is much more narrow. Yeah. So I hope you can hear that quality in the voice. But because of the range I'm in, that's turning metallic. But I don't think the sopranos turn metallic. As far as I know, it's not possible. So they're doing something else. And yeah, essentially that's that. And I feel so bad for the... Okay. So I guess This Is Opera crew is... I don't know if they're here or not. I just got the chat twice from one of the sides on the screen. So sorry about that, guys. I'll fix it. I was working on the other scenes and yeah, etc., etc. Anyway, so let's continue here. It was metallic. Of course. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, I mean... It's much more dramatic than, shall we say, what they're teaching in schools. But I wouldn't say that I haven't seen this and heard this kind of passion and etc. myself on the stage. And sometimes it's in the body but not in the voice. So it's kind of important to remember, I think. Check in with the chats here. Okay, so let's go on. It's very declamatory. I love it. But if you were paying attention during yesterday's Garcia lecture, I guess we'll call it a lecture. If you were paying attention during that, then you know, like, Garcia would be kind of going, nobody sings like the castrati anymore. So back in his day, sounding kind of, you know, light and more like the modern singer comparisons was the old school, and the new school was sounding like this, or moving towards sounding like this. So that's one reason it's weird, and one reason why This Is Opera, for instance, wasn't going to be reading Garcia to you, because it's this you wind up with too many conflicts when you're trying to cherry pick one style, and when you don't really have a deep understanding of the big picture at all, but just enough to put together this kind of impression that you know what you're talking about. That's let's call it the Desdemona effect. So now we have this. It's metallic, but as far as I know, this is still gonna have this F2 H3 coupling thing because of the pitch range. So you've got two things boosting the sound now. It's the metal, but the metal, as far as I know, gets reduced a little bit, and then instead of having such both are nonlinear interactions. So between the sound that's reflected in the vocal tract and the vocal folds, and that's being reflected back and with a certain timing. And when the timing helps, you get this metallic thing, and that's coming from the beginning of the vocal tract especially. And if you open your mouth more, you can hear it better, but you won't be adding any. And if you close your mouth more, it's not that you'll be taking it away necessarily, but you'll make it harder for the audience to hear metal in the voice. And I think what a tenor like Mario Delmonico does is he reduces the metal a little bit, keeps the vocal folds as short as he can. So, and that's basically thyroarytenoid muscle, I think. Muscle and ligament, and just hold the line. And then he adjusts the breath to get the pitch. And he gets this harmonic coupling between the third resonance and the second resonance and the third harmonic. And he had no idea what that was, and you don't need to know what that is. But I think This Is Opera called it turning over the voice. Girare, I think they called it. Yeah. So that's girare, I think. And he's still doing some darkening, so like ah is turning into more like ah, but it's not turning into like oh kind of thing. Like Garcia would have had that turning into oh at the top, and he's maybe just going from ah to ah, so that you don't get like from ah to ah kind of thing. And I mean, okay. Oh. Wow. I mean, he's awesome. Okay, everybody knows Mario Delmonico is awesome. But some of that may have been slightly histrionic. I'm just going to put that out there. That maybe he could be a bit histrionic. Janet Wilson, hi. Yes, I'm reviewing. It depends if you're here from the Mr. Opera channel or the This Is Opera channel. The YouTube live chat things are a little buggy today, and I'm live streaming to two channels who kind of hate each other. The Montagues and the Capulets, if you will. and they don't agree with each other, or think they don't agree with each other on a bunch of opera stuff. And these videos that I'm reviewing were these videos that got passed around by this group called This Is Opera. And now this is a co-production with a group that kind of just grabbed all of their stuff because nobody wants to be associated with it, so nobody will claim it. So now it's just public domain, basically. But Lisette was on this. She's earlier on this. And then we looked at that part 2 days ago in the first part of this. But as far as I know, this group really hated Lisette for some reason. I don't know what Lisette ever did to them. I don't know. She's maybe was just really successful or something. And they didn't like it. So, yeah. But maybe Lisette will come up again. I'm not sure what comes up next in this video. So we're looking at like the history of this phenomenon that was called This Is Opera. They were the biggest channel on about opera kind of ever on YouTube for a while. Well, yeah, for a while they were there, and now they're not. And they made these videos, and it was a whole phenomenon. And they had some good things to say, but then they were quite abusive and had some also big problems with what they were saying. And that's what I'm here talking about. So this is great. I'm going to go forward a bit because this is just Mario Delmonico being really dramatic. And we get the idea, I think. Now this is an interesting choice coming up, because now we're going to hear DeStefano. And I'm interested to see how they square really being Mario Delmonico fans and laughing at anyone who's doing something different, I guess. Laughing at someone who's using a lighter coordination than that, which Mario Delmonico himself does later in life. Not all the time, but in some of his range. So now we're going to go from that to Giuseppe DeStefano, who sang with lighter coordinations than Mario Delmonico his whole career. So let's see. So he's got some things are like that's similar in terms of density and stuff, but the whole stuff that was below that in the middle was much lighter. His way of approaching it, and it's a shame that didn't get noticed, because he sounds awesome. But I think today they would pick on him. Not for this performance. I think it would be like Yusuf. They would have the videos of him when he gets stuck in a reduced density hole or something. And then they would show you that, instead of showing you just the fillet of DeStefano that we now have as what This Is Opera thinks DeStefano was. But there's a whole... If you go and you listen to all the DeStefano recordings, well, you're probably not going to get through them all. And you'll probably have a less, shall we say... you're not going to know what hagiographic is if I say that. So you're going to have a less saintly idea of DeStefano. Like, you won't think of him as a saint anymore, or like a revered sacred cow. There's another singer that has a mixed record. I mean, one of my favorite, but so that's all. Okay, we get the idea. You know. And Tosca here. Ah, Tosca. That's so okay. We're supposed to be listening to Renata Tebaldi, right? But what I think we should focus on here is Spoletta. Hang on. Not yet. Okay. Okay, so there's a guy who's about to sing before she sings. And he's been waiting a while to sing this line. And he doesn't get to go home until he sings this line. And he's a tenor. So he's going to be trying to sing this the best he can. And probably he's going to be trying to sing in the style of whoever was Delmonico or whoever was singing Cavaradossi. And all of his voice lessons and stuff, all of his teachers are the same. There's the same guys. It's all the same people. This guy is definitely just like as much as let's say Desdemona, the leader of This Is Opera, was a student of old school singing. Well, this guy is 10 times more a student of old school singing because he's actually an old school singer from the same generation as Tebaldi, or probably he's older than her. So here comes the old school singer. So we shouldn't forget that's a singer. That's an opera singer. He's a trained classical tenor. And he's not going up and trying to make a fool of himself when he sings auditions. He's singing lead tenor arias and stuff, let's say. Just like you. And all of his teachers are actual old school singing teachers. And he's coming up with with that sound. I'm not going to insult him, but it's not any of the ideals that we were just being shown. And it's kind of interesting that nobody ever stopped to think, like, hey, why do we remember Renata Tebaldi? Do we remember Renata Tebaldi because she was just like everyone around her? Or because she was different from everyone around her? And if she was different from everyone around her, does that mean maybe most of the people who had actual old school singing lessons didn't become old school singers? I don't know. Sounded to me, and I don't know how this works, but just listening to it, it sounds like a soprano doing a lot of what tenors, spinto tenors do if they have to sing these different vowels in a high range. And I see them do it when they pull it off. The whole spine makes the vowel. basically, and they might move the body kind of. It doesn't move a lot, but you can see it's working hard and it's getting these specific postures. And one makes a kind of brighter sound and the other one a darker one. One's more like a caveman, I guess, and the other one's more noble. And it sounded to me like she just alternated those, which is interesting. So I'd really love. I hope they come out with some research that explains how you make a big soprano sound versus a light soprano sound. I should mention too, like when I say like a big soprano sound, it's not necessarily just loudness. Because the lighter soprano sound can be really loud, and I'm not saying that it's better to always have the heavier one. So I guess if you're watching this, if I mention someone having a lighter coordination or something, it's not a bad thing necessarily. In modern opera, the acting is introverted. I mean, what's introverted acting? I've never heard anyone. I mean, I've heard maybe you can have an introverted character or something, and the director will tell you that the character is kind of introverted, I guess. But I've never heard of this. Introverted acting. It's kind of like an oxymoron. It's based mostly on singing softly and whispering. Now, I mean, okay, come on. That's bullshit. Okay, whatever. And untrue. Soft singing isn't used as an occasional effect as it should be. It's used excessively. I don't know. I don't know. The person who wrote this sings soft and breathy, like exclusively. I don't understand. I don't get it. Why do you hate yourself? This combined with the bad singing makes everything extremely boring. As a result, opera lacks the spark, the drama, and the excitement that it should have. Hey. I mean, maybe you've been to some bad shows. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the art's just dying. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe it's had its big moments and that's done now. I don't know. Or maybe things go in cycles and, it hasn't been the best time to be an opera singer. We're not very culturally relevant. But I don't know that blaming the singers is going to, and mistreating the singers and making it more shitty to be a singer is going to improve any of that. I could understand if they were starting like a GoFundMe to, I don't know, fund singers better. I don't know. But that's not what they're doing. This is a result of the fairly new belief that there is some deep intellectual meaning in the libretto, and the acting should be refined. In reality, there is no intellectual meaning because opera was a popular art, not an art of the intellectuals. And I mean, what? I mean, and I guess untrue, but sort of true sometimes. Okay, extrovert, you can be like, whoa, you can be popular and something that intellectuals are into as well, like movies. So extroverted acting would now be considered vulgar. Oh, jeez. You know, there's like periods of opera where I guarantee you there's no extroverted acting. There's periods of opera where acting wasn't a thing, probably. I don't know that much, actually. But I know things like singers used to go around with like a trunk full of arias, and if they didn't like what the composer wrote, they would just sing one of their arias, and people just kind of expected the singer to go around with their own songs and arias and stuff. And are you telling me that they were doing scenes like that with trunk arias, with crazy, verismo acting and method acting, basically? No. I think what we see with Delmonico, etc., that's the effect of modern acting. Actually, that's what Delmonico is. Delmonico is acting like that. Is, I don't know. The opera is like responding to James Dean and the old, not that James Dean, the other James Dean, there's who's the guy? What's Stella? Who is that? Marlon Brando? I think it's Marlon Brando. Method acting and all that stuff. They're responding to something modern. So, like, when you look at what Delmonico's doing, that's modern. That's modern. And when you're talking about more mannered acting and more research and stuff, we tend to be talking about trying to have a historical performance then. So I don't know. If you're into this big acting, to me that comes from from the method, from Stanislavski and stuff. Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna check out some of the chat questions here. Let's get over here. So let's look at some chats. Well, first, let's get me a glass of water. I'll be right back on This Is Opera and Mr. Opera.
Je ne sentais qu'un seul désir, un seul désir, un seul espoir, te revoir, oh Carmen, oui, te revoir, Cortina musique forever, que je t'aime.
So there's I got my cat commercial working. What do you think? What do you guys think of the cat commercial? I thought it was pretty good. Yeah, so that was Marlon Brando in Streetcar Named Desire. And if you're talking about Delmonico's acting, that's your reference point, not Manuel Garcia. Look at what we're reading about when we read the actual old school books. He's telling you that your face should always look calm and you should never knit your brows. And Garcia is saying you should never show your teeth or push your lips out as if it's a funnel or a trumpet. He's also telling you that it shouldn't be open more than like a pencil or whatever, a couple of fingers or something like that. So Manuel Garcia, real old school guy, writing his book, is basically forbidding everything that Delmonico does. So, yeah, a little questionable that this comes from looking for deep intellectual meaning in the libretto. I think it comes from trying to be too old school. It comes from, I think, universities and stuff, they're looking at historical treatises and then trying to apply it, and they tend to do it as if it was a modern instruction manual that's written in a modern context, instead of trying to use that as a way to get clues about what to do. So a lot of what's taught that is offensive to This Is Opera, for instance, is literally in that book that we're studying. Some of it's not, but some of it is. And this extroverted acting, I would say, is a new phenomenon. When we have the Verismo period, so like late 19th century, not before that, do we have this. When Carmen first came out, it was completely scandalous. Just that there was this murder in the first, that was a lot. Usually you take care of murders and stuff off stage, So that's, I probably already scored them on that, but still, they deserve it for that. And now, what about intellectual meaning in the libretto? Well, sorry, but if you want to have this kind of acting like Marlon Brando, you actually have to go and work like a miner, chipping away at the rock, and you have to break down every single moment into its most into tiny little beats, and each beat is like the smallest unit of action or decision making or happening, if you will, that you could come up with. It's a dramatic beat. And in that moment, you're going to have this really extremely simple goal or objective, and you're going to fail or you're going to succeed kind of thing. And it's not, okay, I guess you don't build it on overall concepts. Like, you can't act the concept of somebody who's violent. You just have to actually, you take actions that the audience will then interpret as, this is a violent guy. And you can't act jealous. You do specific things, and then the audience interprets that as jealousy, right? But you have to use your brain to go and read the score and the text and figure out how you're going to do that. You can't just, it's not like peanut butter or something. Oh, let me put on some dramatic. Let me put on some extroversion. Or like, let me put on some wild. Like, that's not going to work. You're going to look stupid. And you're definitely not going to come across like you're powerful or something. You're going to look like an idiot who can't keep it together. You're going to be disorganized. Real method acting that can look completely wild is based on details. It comes from breaking everything down to the simplest little thing. That's why they call it method. They don't call it method because you just wing it. Anyway, and to me, you have to be really good at psychology if you want to do that. And I've never heard of anyone saying that it's vulgar. If it's okay, look, if you're doing like Henry Purcell's Dido and Aeneas, and you're coming in there and you're complaining because nobody likes your Delmonico style Aeneas. It doesn't even have much of a big part, right? And it's completely inappropriate. Well, you should be laughed at. It should be considered vulgar. You're vulgar. But nobody's, if you come in and you're singing like Don José or something, and you're scaring people because when you're playing the scene, it feels like she's in real danger and you're a complete psycho. That's great. Nobody's going to call you vulgar. They're going to be like, do it again. Yeah, that's awesome. People love that. So, yeah. That's not how that works. Yeah. Anyway, maybe somebody doesn't like big acting, but I've never run across that. Anyway, so let's continue here. I'll just hide the chats. Oh, and I guess I'll check the chats. See what's up with you guys. And it looks like I got no volume here.
For the singers is how to deal with silence.
Oh, we've got some documentary stuff. I'll check the chats first. See what you guys are talking about. So we've got Christina Lambro. Hi. Nice. That's a cool emoji there. Or I don't know how you made that. I'd like to know how you made that. Act it out. Olivia says act it out. I've never heard of act it in. That's right, Olivia. And actually, when I was in school, the first thing I was told about acting especially about rehearsing, was it's always better to offer too much than too little. So they told us that every director would rather be telling you to do less than trying to get you to do more, because it's really hard to get people to do more. Whereas if they're doing too much, it's really easy to have them tone it down. And that's all I've ever seen out there. I'm not talking about like Robert Wilson or something. So if you're doing a Robert Wilson thing, it's going to be Robert Wilson's thing. And look, if you're into that, you're into that. And if you're not into that, you're not into that. Yeah. So Lee Kander says, I believe the person means more surface and depth. The introverted acting might be an attempt to be more nuanced and less melodramatic, which might make sense if it's being recorded but not live. Lee, I think whether it's recorded or live, I'm not sure that that's what it is for. I think it has a lot more to do with actually music historians, especially going really hard with this idea that we have to have historically accurate performance and that the composer's intentions are the most important thing, which sounds really, really like it couldn't cause any problems. That sounds really legit. But the problem is that we don't actually know the composer's intentions in the way that you could with the modern composer. So the composer's intentions that we come up with depends on whoever is deciding what the composer's intentions were. And that can be a problem, because if they have an agenda or a bias, which they're going to, or if they make a history mistake, then we have that mistake in the music. And then who established that it was the composer's intention for the music to be constantly revised by every successive generation giving their take on what the composer intended? So how do we know that they intended that? Like, what if a composer intended for people to just play the damn music however they feel like playing it? Or play the music in the way that keeps it popular? So let's say you're Franz Liszt and like somebody asks you, hey, would you rather we do everything that you wrote in the score, or would you rather that people keep listening? Like 10 times more people are going to be listening to your music. He's going to be like, change what you need to so that people listen to it. That's because that's what he would have done. So they have this, like, what did the composer do? Like, which of the composer's intentions could we find? And then it's like the music staff that are getting you to tone things down. They're doing that to try to keep it musically proper. I don't think it's the acting staff. It's not the production staff. It's not the director that's telling people to sing that way. And it doesn't have to do with the microphones, really. I think it has more to do with, like, the recordings are too academic and dry, if you ask me, and they're too much trying to be authentic. They don't use any plugins to like put the distortion on, for instance, from the early days of recording, which could be great, just a touch of it or something to give the recording some life. And I always get the feeling like these opera recordings are made for someone who doesn't exist, like for someone with extremely, extremely expensive equipment for listening to things. You know, who's gonna notice these little tiny differences or something, or can make their listening environment feel like a concert hall. But the rest of us are like cooking. and stuff, and trying to listen to this stuff, and it doesn't work. It's like there's a little bit of noise outside or something, and you can't pay attention to your recording because it's not. Yeah, it's too much trying to be in a concert hall, and at home you're just not in a concert hall. So that's what I wish they would do with recordings. Is yeah. Anyway, so Leikander. So also, if this is true, which I don't believe it is, just to say, would it not be more on the director? So no, I don't think it's more on the director. Maybe if it's like Robert Wilson level control of what the singer's doing. So I don't see how I could possibly do those movements that is famous for, and then also do the movements that I need to get my voice to do what it does. So, but maybe someone else is better than me and they can do it. I don't know. I haven't seen it. So let's see. So directors are like hairdressers, Olivia says. You can do more with too much hair. Yeah. Okay. Leikander. Okay, you guys talking amongst yourselves. That's fine. Okay. So let's let's finish this guy up. So I think I covered, and I don't see what's up in the I could try to take a look here. I'm gonna hit play. Oh no, we need to hear this. So this is a.
You say to him, love me, vogliatemi bene, but a small love, un bene piccolino. In Italian, that little piccoli.
Oppure saranno tutti cantanti con quelle vicine
piccole. Now we've been here, haven't we?
Tipo Moscerino.
No, we've been here. You know, because. Yeah, okay, but then, like. The person who made this might sound like this, which is fine. It's just as fine as what we were hearing. But it's in the same style, except not as clear. I would say, let's see. Let's compare the clarity here.
You have the answer in the orchestra. So full of little effects of the night and night sounds and...
Is she going to sing some more?
Yeah, Japanese delicacy.
So same thing.
Okay, now let's hear it.
You say to him...
It sounds clearer. The sound is clearer, but also... I don't know what this was.
The difficulty for the singers is how to deal with silence.
So it doesn't sound to me like she's going full out, like she's on stage. It sounds to me like they're just talking about some musical ideas, and it wouldn't be necessary to go full out. Right? But even so, even considering that, it's got a higher close quotient than this. You know?
You say to him,
let's see. Let's take a look again. Yeah. So, what's the issue? I mean, we got a similar style of production, right? But I think the one is just doing it to do this little practice session with this coach who's giving her some musical ideas. I think, you know, we could relax about that. In any case,
Love
it
me.
compares well with
Vogliatemi bene,
someone who's got
but
access to all of the teachings of This Is Opera.
small love, un bene piccolino. In Italian, that little piccoli.
So if you work
Oppure
really
saranno
hard
tutti cantanti con quelli di
and you do the stuff that This Is Opera is telling you, you too can be almost as loud as a soprano who's just kind of practicing.
piccole, 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 tipo Moscerino.
And then you have the answer in the orchestra. So full of little effects of the night and night sounds and yeah, Japanese delicacy.
So same thing. I feel that maybe
That was kind of weird. Japanese delicacy.
Verdi wants to tell us
Just uni everywhere
that she's
Now
a
I'm
grande
hungry.
dame,
for Japanese delicacies.
but she's at a moment in her life that it
Cho-cho-san.
starts to be more mature, but she's also unsure and scared. So you should be more scared and not scare us with your low C sharp. That's
What's
what
the
I
problem
so
here?
you can get
I guess he's maybe. Let's review that and see if it was so bad.
thing. I feel that maybe Verdi wants to tell us that she's a grande dame, but she's at a moment in her life that it starts to be more mature, but she's also unsure and scared. So you should be more scared and not scare us with your low C sharp. That's what I
Okay.
mean. So you
How do we? But we don't have the results there. And then how do we know? So what? Okay, what's a process? That's the important. Like what? How do you guys think a process works? Like, and especially something like what they're trying to do here, which is coming up with musical ideas, musical ways to conceive of all of this. Like, I guess the model of education that This Is Opera had in mind is this kind of dictation. You know, because they had this agenda. It wasn't, they're not just making these videos just to make them. They're making these videos to sell a service, these voice lessons. And they want you to come with this idea in your head. And by the way, if you're on This Is Opera watching this and you want to say mean things or whatever, you have to come over to This Is Opera because I messed up adding the chats here. So next time I'll have them on to use in the Capulets. I could either do that or make my cat commercial. So I made my cat commercial. Yeah, so what was I saying? It's not necessary for every offer that a teacher gives you, especially in this kind of situation where they're kind of brainstorming. It's not necessary for all of those to be the one that you're actually going to use in the end. But if the model that you have in mind is like 100% obedience to the master, then something like this would be like you wouldn't understand it. This would offend you because maybe you disagree with the advice. I can't even see what the context is. And I can't see if then he advised if she had more than a couple options or whatever, and he actually which one he told her to go with in the end. I see a guy making suggestions, and as a singer, I would take those suggestions as suggestions, you know, and I wouldn't understand what a conductor has to say as like a technical suggestion. Even if they make a technical suggestion, I try to just translate that into what kind of sound are they actually looking for. What kind of impression are they trying to get me to make? And then it's for you to work out how to do it. So I don't see what's the problem here. What is the sin?
You can give more in the words.
Okay.
Masse, pagasse, that goes with, I mean.
By the way, his speaking voice is neutral. So maybe it's in the neutral mode mostly. So I wonder if that's what they didn't like.
I sound bad, but I mean, you will sound.
That's another This Is Opera thing that I noticed is it's a kind of a masculinity cult. And especially when it comes to like, so if I'm stuck talking like this all the time and I want to change the way that I'm talking, but it's always like this, and I'm not learning about how to talk with metal, I may have this feeling, you know, that I'm not manly enough or something like that, and somebody might exploit that if I'm insecure about it. And I see that going on, that there is this marketing, especially to young men who would like to beef up their voice, not even necessarily to be a professional Delmonico or a professional Corelli, just to be able to do it. And they deserve to be able to get that. It's just, I think it has more to do with like things like your posture, etc., and your spinal mobility, things that are maybe fitness things, and that you may not figure out with the first set of ways you try to fix the problem, right? And especially if you don't have a word for what it is that you want, and you don't have a way of even figuring out when you heard it and when you didn't, etc., or of learning how to do that, then it would be appealing if a group comes along and tells you, you know, we can make you talk like a man. Let's see. Chats are blowing up here. Thanks for showing up, guys. I'm gonna see what you got to say. Let's see. Okay. Also heard Armanel Yahoo. She doesn't sing like this live. Yeah, that's what I figured. It didn't look like a sound check to me for the real performance, you know? It just didn't look anything like that. So this was bullshit. Kind of having a problem with this. I don't get it. Don't get it at all. Okay. Shall we continue? Let's continue.
Great. But you know what I mean. More energy in the text, less sound.
Okay.
That's going to grab your audience and will also be more expressive. Okay. So good. So what's your mood there?
But we don't hear what it is. Maybe it was bad advice, but maybe it was good. How can we even know? You're just cherry picking where a guy said less sound, right? But like, how can we make less sound? Well, like if we play this, you know, this is less sound, I think, and more focused on the text. What if they were doing this kind of music? Maybe it's fine. I don't know.
Worried for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
And I can't know because they just cherry pick this stuff.
Of sound. Maise pagasse. More breathy.
Okay.
More breathy, you say? Right? Now we have more breathy. This over-intellectualization of opera is why conductors and directors always encourage the singers to use less voice and make weaker sounds. They don't even take into consideration the fact that these sounds feel like absolutely nothing in the theater and they make everything boring. I don't have the rest of the masterclass, whatever that was. I'd love to see if it's actually true that he always encouraged the singers to use less voice. And then I'd love to follow him. Not that I would change my bullshit score, because I would definitely see that he's not probably always telling singers to use less voice. He's probably, and was probably in that masterclass, trying to encourage them to have some kind of variety so that they're not just presenting this flat thing like they took the idea of being dramatic, for instance, and applied it like it's peanut butter all across the score and all across the performance. That would be boring. Probably he was trying to get them to make some kind of contrast between what they're doing one moment and what they're doing in other moments. Let's see. But we don't know because they cherry-picked, because it's bullshit. Okay, they try to make the acting realistic in the wrong way. Yeah. And just end up killing the drama. For example, if the character is weak and dying, they make the singing weak. If the character is sad, they make it whispery, etc. And everything ends up sounding like a lullaby. I haven't heard that. I'm not sure what they mean. You know, you might have that for like a moment, but I've never heard them like, you know, doing a whole opera like this. Not Violetta, for instance. You know, you just wouldn't, you know, we can rewind. Let's see. Because somebody asked to hear it again, right? We would not have Lisette using that vocal coordination and trying to do this. She would die. She would die. She would just die. Right? Because that kind of breathy vocal coordination is really irritating for the vocal folds if you try to get loud. You have to stay really soft. You have to really stay in your lane with that stuff. So let's watch a bit more of this.
That goes with, I mean, I
And that's
you sound great.
neutral,
But
breathy.
you know what I mean.
But so is
more energy in the text.
Desdemona. So
less.
but he's
sound.
just trying to give
That's
a
gonna
sense of
grab
it,
your
you know.
audience and will also
So
be
do
more
we get to hear
expressive.
his?
So good. So what's your mood there?
No, we don't get to hear what he did.
Worried for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
The speaking voice sounds
should
clear.
explore this kind of sound. More breathy.
Okay.
No, we don't. Okay. So now we're back to, okay, we saw this already. Yeah, so then that's Verismo. Sorry, but if the character is weak and dying and you make the singing weak, that's Verismo. That's, you know, ideally you make them sound weak and dying, establish that they're weak and dying, and then you try to like switch back to singing strong and hope they don't notice. you know, and that's suspension of disbelief, and you're using music to kind of, yeah. But you're gonna want at least one phrase where you're, but I've never heard anyone do like, oh, do this whole section breathy. No one's gonna hear you. Anyway, understanding why most people don't like opera isn't that complicated and can be summed up in the following points. They're young. They're young. They're not old. They're young and they're not old. How about that? Okay, no, sorry. I was just kidding. But seriously, the audience is old. So, well, I'm hoping that that's a good thing. Aren't we the population is aging, right? Something like that. That's maybe good for opera. So, bad singing. I mean, okay. Desdemona. Lifeless, boring acting. Fake intellectuality that looks pretentious. But I mean, what about this video? People who aren't familiar with opera. Wait a minute, what? Isn't that the whole new audience? Like, the new audience you're trying to get is people who aren't familiar with opera. Why? Okay. I don't understand this. Are they don't like opera because they aren't familiar with opera? Or people who aren't familiar with opera are ruining opera or something? Maybe because they're directing. They do have this point, I think, with opera directing, or a production conceptualization, maybe. I don't know, and how that's approached. But I don't think it's fair to just single out one part of the industry like that. I think in general the problem is the singers don't have enough creative control over opera. It's just general. And since you don't have creative control with the singers, someone else is going to get creative control. And whoever that is, you're going to complain about them. Because the people who have creative control should probably be the singers. Or they should be a very strong part of the mix when it comes to who has creative control in opera. And that would help. One second. The elitism that follows the over-intellectualization. That's interesting because This Is Opera was working really hard to establish themselves as the top of this kind of elite of people who were old school opera people. The old school opera people are automatically better than the new school opera people, even if they don't sing as well. That's how there's one comment on I posted a short on Instagram with Lisette Oropeza, and someone's like, oh, she's just naturally talented, but her technique is bad. So it's just natural talent, but her technique is bad. So she's figured out a way to frame someone being better than her as, well, actually, I'm better than she is as far as this one category of technique. And nobody can actually ever check that, of course, because it's covered up by talent. So if someone's really talented, they can make it seem as if they're better. But what you don't know, and can't ever know, is that actually she's better in terms of technique, but just not as talented. It's the most ridiculous thing you've ever heard in your life. And it's over-intellectualizing. And it's elitist. So it's really interesting. This part of the TIO things is kind of projection, if you ask me. But that's kind of typical for certain personality types. Does Desdemona effect? It's the Desdemona effect. Is this really a matter of changes in cultural preference? Not really. How? Okay. How do you just? How do you just? Okay, is it really a change in cultural preferences? Not really. So that's how you. That's the argument. That giant fucking massive question of is this a real thing, or is this just cultural preference? Oh man. Oh, I had my cats up. Second, so I'll be right back and see if there's any more user comments. I'm gonna try to get my cats to work again. Oh, where's the cats? They just kind of. Oh, that's why. Okay, hang on, guys. Okay, here's my commercial again. No, it didn't work. Okay, I gotta move this down here. Okay, you guys ready? So you gotta give me money, or she's gonna go back to the boring, low-quality kibble. I'm telling you guys. She's not my cat. She just visits. She just kind of started. She started showing up here. And now she takes food, but she can't be inside very long. She just panics if she's inside the house. So that's charity, guys. And it's not for me. It's for the cat. And if you want her to keep having the good food, you're gonna have to send me tips for this content, because yeah, instead of working to buy food for her, I'm talking to you guys. Just kidding. Anyway, okay, so I think that's all for today. We got everybody, all the questions answered. I will take a quick look. Yeah, the TIO people went away because their chat wasn't up. So, thanks for joining me, Mr. Opera guys. Also, this is Opera people if you were there. Gonna be signing off now. This is Mr. Opera, and I guess we should do real quick the